is on the table. Pray open it at page 15. We will repeat yesterday's lesson.
But I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language. I know perfectly well that I would quite faint after my German lesson.
Child, you know how anxious is your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. But I have particular stress on your German essays and can today. Indeed, you could always list stress on your German acquaintances that can.
Dear Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he is so serious, I think he cannot be quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the best of health and his graphic demeanor is especially commended in one so comparatively young as he is, and of no one who has a high sense of duty and responsibility.
I suppose that's why he often looks a little bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I'm surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. Idle merriment and triviality would be out of place in his conversation. You must remember his constant anxiety about our unfortunate and romantic weather.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometimes. We might have a good influence over him. Miss Prism, you certainly would. You know geology and German and things of that kind influence a man very much.
I do not think that even I could produce any effect on a character that, according to his own brother's admission, is mutually weak and vacillating. Indeed, I'm not sure I would desire to acquaint him. I'm not in favor of this modern nation of turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so let him be. You must put away your diary, Cecily. I really don't see why you should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
No, my dear Cecily, it's the diary we all carry with us.
Yes, but it usually chronicles the things that have never happened and couldn't have possibly happened. I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all the 3-volume novels that Moody sends us.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novels, Cecily. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. It impressed me so much.
The good ended happily and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so. But it seems very unfair. And was your novel ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript unfortunately was abandoned. I used the sensitive as lost or mislaid. To your work, child, the speculations are profitless.
But I see dear Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden.
Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
And how are we this morning? Miss Prism, you are, I trust, well?
Miss Prism had just been complaining about a slight headache. I think it would do her so much good to have a short stroll with you in the park, Dr. Chasuble.
Cecily, I have not mentioned anything about a headache.
No, dear Miss Prism, I know that. But I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Indeed, I was thinking about that and not about my German lesson when the rector came in.
I hope, Cecily, you are not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would simply hang upon her lips.
met any really wicked people before. I'm very afraid. I'm so afraid he'll look just like everyone else. He does.
You are my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You are under some strange mistake. I am not little. In fact, I believe I am more than usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily. You, I say from your card, are Uncle Jack's brother, my cousin Ernest, my wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, I'm not really wicked at all, cousin Cecily. You mustn't think that I am wicked.
If you are not, then you have certainly been deceiving us all in a very inexcusable manner. I hope you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and being really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Oh, of course, I have been rather reckless.
I'm glad to hear it.
In fact, now that you mention the subject, I've been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think you should be so proud of that, though I'm sure it must have been very pleasant.
It's much pleasanter being here with you.
I can't understand you here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back till Monday afternoon.
That is a great disappointment. I'm obliged to go by the first train on Monday morning. I have a business appointment that I'm anxious to miss.
Couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
No, the appointment is in London.
Well, I know, of course, how important it is not to keep a business engagement if one wants to retain any sense of the beauty of life. But still, I think you had better wait till Uncle Jack arrives. I know he wants to speak to you about your immigrating.
About my what?
Your immigrating. He has gone up to buy your outfit.
I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He has no taste in neckties at all.
I don't think you will require neckties. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday night that you'd have to choose between this world, the next world, or Australia.
Oh, well, the accounts that I've received of Australia and the next world are not particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, cousin Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I'm not that. That is why I want you to reform me. You might make that your mission, if you don't mind, cousin Cecily.
I'm afraid I've not time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind my reforming myself this afternoon?
It is rather quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
I will. I feel better already.
You are looking a little worse.
That is because I am hungry.
How thoughtless of me. I should have remembered that when one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Thank you. Might I have a buttermilk first? I never have any appetite unless I have a buttermilk first.
Marshmallow?
No, I'd sooner have a pink rose.
Why?
Because you are like a pink rose, cousin Cecily.
I don't think that it would be right to talk to me like that. Miss Prison never says such things to me.
And Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. You're the prettiest girl I ever saw.
Miss Prison says that all good looks are a snap.
They are as mad as every sensible man who likes to be positive.
I don't think I should like to catch a sensible man. I shouldn't know what to talk to him about.
You are much too lonely, Dr. Charles. You should get married. A misanthrope I can understand. A womanthrope never.
Believe me, I do not deserve so neologistic a phrase. The precept as well as the practice of the primitive church was distinctly against matrimony.
That is obviously the reason why the primitive church has now lasted up to the present day. And you do not seem to realize, Doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public condition. Men should be more careful. This very self-perceived leads their vessels astray.
But is a man not equally attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive except to his wife.
In Alfred, I am told not even to her.
That depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can always be depended upon. Firmness can be trusted. Young women are vain. I spoke culturally. My men closed drunken fools. But where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools.
Mr. Worthing,
Mr. Worthing?
this is indeed a surprise. We did not look for you till Monday afternoon.
I have returned sooner than I expected. Dr. Chasuble, I hope you are well.
Dear Mr. Worthing, I trust your garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother,
Were shameful debts and extravagance?
dead.
Your brother Ernest, dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust you will profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, I offer you my sincere
had many faults, but it is a sad, sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad, in Paris, in fact. I had a telegram last night with the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man, so shall he be.
Charity, dear Miss Prism, none of us are perfect. I myself am peculiarly susceptible to draughts. Will the interment take place here?
No, he seems to have expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris? I feel that hardly points to any serious state of mind at the last. You would no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion to this tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the manna in the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion, joyful or, as in the present case, distressing. I have preached it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, on days of humiliation and festal days. The last time I delivered it was in the cathedral, as a charity sermon on behalf of the Society for the Prevention of Discontent among the Upper Orders. The bishop, who was present, was much struck by some of the analogies I drew.
That reminds me. You mentioned christenings, I think, Dr. Chasuble. I suppose you know how to christen, all right? Well, I mean, of course. You are continuously christening, are you not?
It is, I regret to say, one of the doctor's most constant themes in this parish. I've often spoken with choir classes on this subject, but they don't seem to know what birth is.
But is there any particular infant in whom you are interested, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was, I believe, unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes.
People who live entirely with pleasure usually are.
But it is not for any child, dear doctor. No, I'm very fond of children. I would like to be christened myself this afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
But have you any grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly intend to have. Of course, I don't know if the thing would bother you at all, or if you think I'm a little too old now.
Not at all. The sprinkling and indeed the immersion of an adult is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion.
You need have no apprehensions. Sprinkling is all that is necessary, or indeed I think advisable. Our weather is so changeable. At what hour would you wish the ceremony performed?
Oh, I might trot around about 5, if that would suit you.
Perfectly, perfectly. In fact, I have 2 similar ceremonies to perform at that time. A case of twins that occurred recently on one of the outlying cottages on your own estate. Paul Jenkins the carter, a hard-working man.
Oh, I don't see much fun in being christened along with other babies. It would be childish. Would 5:30 do?
Admirably, admirably. And now, Mr. Worthing, I will not intrude any longer into a house of sorrow. I would merely beg you not to be so much bowed down with grief. What seems to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Uncle Jack, am I pleased to see you back? So what horrid clothes you've got on. Do go and change them.
Cecily,
My child, my child.
What does that matter, Uncle Jack? You look happy. You look as if you had toothache. And I've got such a surprise for you. Who do you think's in the dining room? Your brother.
Who?
Your brother Ernest. He arrived about a half an hour ago.
What nonsense! I haven't got a brother.
Don't say that. However badly he may have behaved to you in the past, he's still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I'll go tell him to come out. And you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are very joyful tidings.
after we have all been resigned to his loss, his sudden return seems to be peculiarly distressing.
My brother is in the dining room? I don't know what it all means. I think that's absurd. Good heavens.
Brother John, I've come down from town to tell you that I'm very sorry for the trouble I've given you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you are not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think his coming down here is disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. There is some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, whom he goes to visit so often. much good in one who is kind to an invalid and leaves the pleasures of money to sit by a bed of pain.
Oh, he's been talking about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he's told me all about poor Mr. Bunbury's terrible state of health.
Bunbury? Well, I won't have him talk to you about Bunbury or about anything else. It's enough to drive one perfectly frantic.
Of course, I admit that the faults were all on my side, but I must say that I think Brother John's coolness to me is peculiarly painful. I expected a more enthusiastic welcome, especially considering it's the first time I've come out here.
Uncle Jack, if you don't shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me?
Never, never, never.
Well, this is the last time I shall ever do it.
It's so perfect, is it not, to see so perfect a reconciliation? I think we might leave the two brothers together.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Present, my little task of reconciliation is over.
You have done a beautiful action today, dear child.
We must not be premature in our judgments.
Oh, I feel very happy.
You young scoundrel, Algie! You have to get out of this place as soon as possible. I don't allow any Bunburying here.
I have put Mr. Worthing's things in the room next to yours, sir. I suppose that is all right?
What?
Mr. Earnest's luggage, sir. I have unpacked it and put it in the room next to yours.
His luggage.
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a large luncheon basket.
I am afraid I can't stay for more than a week this time.
Merriman, order the dog cart at once. Mr. Earnest has suddenly been called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful lie you are, Jack. I have not been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
I haven't heard anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the smallest degree.
I can quite understand that.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
You are not to talk of Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why on earth don't you go up and change? It's perfectly childish to be in deep mourning for a man who is actually staying with you for a whole week in your house as a guest. I call it grotesque.
You are certainly not staying with me for a whole week as a guest or as anything else. You have to leave by the 4-5 train.
Well, I certainly won't leave you so long as you're in mourning. It would be most unfriendly. If I were in mourning, you would stay with me, I suppose. I should think it most unkind if you didn't.
Well, will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, if you are not too long. I never saw anybody take so long to dress with such little result.
Well, at any rate, that's better than being always as overdressed as you are.
If I am occasionally a little overdressed, I make up for it by being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous. Your conduct is outrage, and your presence in my garden utterly absurd. However, you have got to catch the 4-5, and I hope you have a pleasant journey back to town. This Bunburying, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
I think it has been a great success. I'm in love with Cecily, and that is everything. But I must see her before I go and make arrangements for another Bunbury. Ah, there she is.
Oh, I merely came back to wash the roses. I thought you were here with Uncle Jack.
He's gone to order the dog cart for me.
Oh, is he going to take you for a drive?
He's going to send me away.
We've got to part.
I'm afraid so. It's a very painful parting.
It is always painful to part from people whom one has known for a very brief space of time. The absence of old friends one can endow with equanimity, but even a momentary separation from anyone to whom one has just been introduced is almost unbearable.
Thank you.
The dog cart is at the door, sir.
It can wait, Merriman. For 5 minutes?
Yes, miss.
I hope, Cecily, that I shall not offend you if I state quite frankly and openly that you seem to me to be in every way the visible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you'll allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
Do you really keep diary? I'd give anything to look at it. May I?
Oh no. You see, it is simply a many young girls
wonderful and incomparable beauty, I have dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I think you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily,
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
tell her to come round next week, at the same hour.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed if he knew you were staying on until next week, at the same hour.
I don't care about Jack. I don't care for anybody in the world but you. I love you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
You silly boy, of course. I've been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months.
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we get engaged?
Well, ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you, of course, have formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prison. And of course, a man who is much talked about is always very attractive. One feels there must be something in him, after all. I dare say it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Darling. And when was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to end the matter one way or the other, and after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under that dear old tree over there. And the next day I bought this little ring in your name, and this is the little bangle with the true lover's knot I promised you always to wear.
Did I give you this? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you've wonderfully good taste, Ernest. It is the excuse I've always given for your leading such a bad life. And this is the box in which you kept all your dear letters.
My letters? But my own sweet Cecily, I have never written you any letters.
You need hardly remind me of that, Ernest. I remember only too well I was forced to write your letters for you. I wrote always 3 times a week, and sometimes oftener.
Do let me read them, Cecily.
Oh, I couldn't possibly. That would make you far too conceited. The 3 you wrote me after I had broken off the engagement. So beautiful. And so badly spelled that even now I can hardly read them without crying a little.
Was our engagement ever broken off?
Of course it was. On the 22nd of last March. You can see the entry if you like. Today I broke off my engagement with Earnest. I feel it better to do so. The weather continues to charm.
But why on earth did you break it off? What had I done? I had done nothing at all, Cecily. I'm very much hurt indeed to hear you broke it off. Particularly when the weather was so charming.
It would hardly have been a serious engagement if it hadn't been broken off at least once. But I forgave you before we was out.
What a perfect angel you are, Cecily.
You dear romantic boy. I hope your hair comes naturally, does it?
Yes, darling. With a little help from others.
I'm so glad.
You'll never break off our engagement again, Cecily.
I don't think I could break it off now that I've actually met you. Besides, of course, there's the question of your name.
Yes, of course.
You must not laugh at me, darling, but it has always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name was Ernest. There was something in that name that seems to inspire absolute confidence. I pity any poor married woman whose husband is not called Ernest.
But, my dear child, do you mean to say that you could not love me if I had some other name?
But what name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
Well, I don't like the name Algernon.
Well, my own dear, sweet, loving little darling, I really can't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It is not at all a bad name. In fact, it is rather an aristocratic name. Half of the chaps who get into the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But, seriously, Cecily, if my name was Algie, couldn't you love me?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character. But I feel that I should not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, your rector here is, I suppose, thoroughly experienced in the practice of all the rites and ceremonials of the church.
Oh yes, Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man. He has never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must seem at once on a most important Christian, on most important business. shan't be away for more than half an hour.
Considering that we have been engaged since February the 14th, and that I only met you today for the first time, I think it's very hard if you should leave me for so long a period as half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
What an impetuous boy he is. I can have so much. I must enter his proposal into my diary.
Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing on very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Isn't Mr. Worthing in the library?
Mr. Worthing went over in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Pray ask the lady to come out here. Mr. Worthing is sure to be back soon. And you can drink tea.
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax. I suppose some of the many good elderly women who are associated with Uncle Jack and some of his philanthropic work in London. I don't quite like women who are interested in philanthropic work. It's a very foreign.
Miss Fairfax.
Hey, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew. What a very sweet name. Something tells me that we are going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong.
How nice of you to like me so much after we have known each other such a comparatively short time. Pray, sit down.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
So, with pleasure.
And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
If you wish.
Well, then that is all quite settled, is it not?
I hope so.
Perhaps this might be a favourable opportunity for my mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You have never heard of Papa, I suppose.
I don't think so.
Outside the family circle, Papa, I am glad to say, is entirely unknown. I think this is quite as it should be. The home seems to me to be the proper sphere for the man, and certainly once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, does he not? And I don't like that. It makes men so very attractive. Cecily, a mamma whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. It is part of a system. So do you mind my looking at you through my glasses?
Oh, not at all, Gwendolyn. I'm very fond of being looked at.
You are here on a short visit, I suppose.
Oh no, I live here.
Really? Your mother, no doubt, or some female relative of advanced years resides here also.
Oh no, I have no mother. Nor in fact any relation.
Indeed.
My dear guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian.
Yes, I'm Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh, it is strange that he never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. I'm not sure, however, that the news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight. I'm very fond of you, Cecily. I've liked you ever since I met you. But I am bound to state that, now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I cannot help expressing the wish that you were, well, just a little older than you seem to be, and not quite so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly,
Pray do. I think whenever one has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid.
well, to speak with perfect candor, Cecily, I wish that you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He is the very soul of trust and honor. Disloyalty would be as impossible for him as deception. But even men of the noblest possible character are extremely susceptible to the influence of the physical charms of others. Modern, no less than ancient history supplies us with many most painful examples of what I refer to. If it were not so, indeed, history would be quite unreadable.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Oh, but it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother, his older brother.
Ernest never mentioned to me that he had a brother.
I'm sorry to say that we have not been on good terms for a long time.
That accounts for it. And now that I think of it, I have never heard any man mention his brother. The subject seems distasteful to most men. Cecily, you have lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would have been terrible if any cloud had come across a friendship like ours, would it not? Of course, you are quite sure that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian.
Quite sure.
think there must be some slight error. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will appear in the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest.
I'm afraid you must be under some misconception. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It is very curious, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you would care to verify the incident, pray do so. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train. I am so sorry, dear Cecily, if it is any disappointment to you, but I am afraid I have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I can tell you, dear Gwendolyn, if it caused you any mental or physical anguish. But I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to you, he changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been entrapped by any foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have got into, I will never reproach him with it after we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? This is no time for wearing the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I am glad to say that I have never seen a spade. It is obvious that our social spheres have been widely different.
Shall I lay the tea here, as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual.
Are there many interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Oh, yes, there can be great many. From the top of one of the hills quite close, one can see 5 counties.
5 counties. I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
Oh, I suppose that is why you live in town.
Quite a well-kept garden this is, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were any flowers in the country.
Oh, flowers are as common here, Miss Fairfax, as people are in London.
Personally, I cannot understand how anyone manages to exist in the country if anybody who is anybody does. The country always bores me to death.
Ah, that is what the newspapers call agricultural depression, is it not? I believe the aristocracy are suffering from it very much just at present. It is almost an epidemic among them, I've been told. Would you like some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you. Testable girl, but I require tea.
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter. Cake is rarely seen at the best houses nowadays.
How about to Miss Fairfax?
You have filled my cup with bumps of sugar, and though I asked most distinctly for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for my gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I felt that you were false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such manners. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I am trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you have many other calls of a similar nature to make in the neighborhood.
Ernest. My own Ernest.
Gwendolyn, darling.
A moment. May I ask if you are engaged to be married to this young lady?
dear little Cecily. Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I knew there must be some misunderstanding, Miss Fairfax. The gentleman whose arm is presently round your waist is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon.
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack! No.
Here comes Ernest.
My own love.
A moment, Ernest. May I ask you, are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
So what, young lady? Good heavens, Gwendolyn.
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn.
Of course not. What put such an idea into your pretty little head?
You may.
I felt there was some slight error, Miss Cardew. The gentleman who is now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief. Oh. Are you called Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Oh.
Is your name really Sean?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. But my name certainly is John. It has been John for years.
Gross deception has been practiced on both of us.
My poor wounded Cecily.
My sweet woman, Gwendolyn.
You will call me sister, will you not?
There is just one question that I would like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. Mr. Worthing, there is just one question that I would like to be permitted to put to you. Where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest, so it is a matter of some importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it is very painful for me to be forced to speak the truth. Never in my life have I been reduced to such a painful position, and I'm quite inexperienced in doing anything of the kind. However, I will tell you quite frankly that I have no brother Ernest. I have no brother at all. I've never had a brother in my life, and I certainly have not the smallest intention of ever having one in the future.
No brother at all.
None.
Had you never had a brother of any kind?
Never. Not even of any kind.
I am afraid it is quite clear, Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
It is not a very pleasant position for a young girl suddenly to find herself in, is it?
Let us go into the house. They will hardly venture to come after us there.
No, men are so cowardly, aren't they?
This ghastly state of things is what you call Bunburying, I suppose.
Yes, and what a perfectly wonderful Bunbury it is. The most wonderful Bunbury I ever had in my life.
Well, you've no right whatsoever to Bunbury here.
That is absurd. One has the right to Bunbury anywhere one chooses. Every serious Bunburyist knows that.
Serious Bunburyist? Good heavens.
Well, one must be serious about something if one wants to have any amusement in life. I happen to be serious about Bunbury. What on earth you're serious about, I haven't the remotest idea. That's everything I should fancy. You're such an absolutely trivial nature.
Well, the only satisfaction I have in the whole of this wretched business is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You won't be able to run down to the country quite so often as you used to, Algie, and a very good thing, too.
Your brother is a little off-color, isn't he, dear Jack? You won't be able to disappear to London quite so often as your wicked custom was. And not a bad thing, either.
As for your conduct toward Miss Cardew, I must say that your taking in a sweet, simple, innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable, to say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
I can see no possible defense at all for your taking in a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax, to say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolyn. That is all. I love her.
Well, I simply wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
There was certainly no chance of your marrying Miss Cardew.
I don't think there's much likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
Well, that's no business of yours.
If it were my business, I wouldn't talk about it. It's very vulgar to talk about one's own business. Only people like stockbrokers do that, and then merely at dinner parties.
How you can sit there, calmly eating muffins when we are in this horrible trouble I can't make out. You seem to me to be perfectly harmless.
Well, I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner, because the urger would probably get on
perfectly heartless to eating muffins at all, under the circumstances.
When I am in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I'm in really great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything except food and drink. At the present moment, I'm eating muffins because I am unhappy. Besides, I am particularly fond of muffins.
Well, there's no reason why you should eat them all in that greedy way.
I wish you would have the tea cake instead. I don't like tea cake.
Good heavens, I suppose a man may eat his own muffins in his own garden.
But you have just said it was perfectly heartless to eat muffins.
I said it was perfectly heartless of you, under the circumstances. That is a very different thing.
That may be, but the muffins are the same.
Algie, I wish to goodness you would go.
You can't possibly ask me to go without having some dinner. It's absurd. I never go without my dinner. No one ever does, except vegetarians and people like that. Besides, I have just made arrangements to be christened at 6:15, under the name of Earnest.
My dear fellow, the sooner you give up that nonsense, the better. I made arrangements this morning with Dr. Chasuble to be christened myself at 5:30, and I naturally will take the name of Earnest if Gwendolyn would wish it. We can't both be christened Earnest, it's absurd. Besides, I have a perfect right to be christened if I like. There's no evidence at all that I've been christened by anybody, and I should think it extremely probable I never was, and so does Dr. Chasuble. It is entirely different in your case. You have been christened already.
Yes, but I have not been christened for years.
Yes, but you have been christened. That's the important thing.
Quite so I know my constitution can stand it. If you are not quite sure about your ever having been christened, I must say I think it's rather dangerous you're venturing on us now. You can hardly have forgotten that someone very closely connected with you was very nearly carried off this week in Paris by a severe chill.
You said yourself that a severe chill is not hereditary.
It used to be, I know. But I dare say it is now. Science is always making wonderful improvements in things.
That is nonsense. You're always talking nonsense.
Jack, you are at the muffins again. I wish you wouldn't. There are only 2 left. I told you I was particularly fond of muffins.
But I hate tea cake.
Then why on earth do you allow it to be served up for your guests? What ideas have you of hospitality?
Algernon, I have already told you to go. Why won't you go?
I haven't quite finished my tea yet. And there is still 1 muffin left.
The fact that they did not follow us at once into the house, as anyone else would have done, seems to me to show that they have some sense of shame left.
They have been eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
They don't seem to notice us. Couldn't you cough?
But I haven't gone off.
They're looking at us. What effrontery.
They're approaching. It's very forward of them.
Let us preserve a dignified silence.
Sadly, it's the only thing to do now.
This dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect.
A most distasteful one.
But we will not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, I have something very particular to ask you. Much depends on your reply.
Gwendolyn, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the following question. Why do you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I may have an opportunity of meeting you.
That certainly seems a satisfactory explanation, does it not?
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
I don't. That does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True, in matters of great importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer to me for pretending to have a brother? Was it in order that he might have an opportunity of coming up to town to see me as often as possible?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts upon the subject. I intend to crush them. This is not a moment for German skepticism. Their explanations appear to be quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. That seems to me to have the stamp of truth upon it.
I am more than content with what Mr. Moncrief said. His voice alone inspires one with absolute credulity.
Then you think we should forgive them?
Yes, I mean no.
True. I have forgotten there are principles at stake that one cannot surrender. Which of us should tell them? This task is not a pleasant one.
Could we not both speak at the same time?
An excellent idea. I nearly always speak at the same time as other people. Will you take the time from me?
Certainly.
Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier, that is all.
Our Christian names, is that all? But we are going to be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, you are prepared to do this terrible thing.
I am.
To please me, you're ready to face this fearful ordeal.
I am.
How absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes, where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned and are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
They have moments of physical courage, of which we women know absolutely nothing.
Darling.
Darling.
Lady Bracknell!
Good heavens.
Gwendolen, what does this mean?
Merely that I am engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Come here, sit down. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young, a physical weakness in the old. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased by the means of a small coin. I followed her at once by a luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I am glad to say, under the impression that she is attending a more than usually lecture by the university's extension scheme on the influence of apparent income on thought. I do not plan to undeceive him. Indeed, I have never undeceived him on the matter. I would consider it wrong. But, of course, you clearly understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately from this moment. On this point, as on all points, I am firm.
I am engaged to be married to Gwendolen, Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now, as regards Algernon. Algernon,
Yes, Lady Bracknell.
may I ask if it is in this house that your invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, resides?
Oh, no. Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? When did Mr. Bunbury die? His death must have been extremely sudden.
Oh, I killed Bunbury this afternoon. Poor Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Bunbury, he was quite exploded.
Exploded? Was he a victim of a revolutionary outrage? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If so, he is well punished for his morbidity.
My dear Aunt Augusta, I mean that he was found out. The doctors found out that he could not live, and that is what I mean, so he died.
He seems to have a great confidence in the opinion of his physicians. I am glad, however, that he has made up his mind at last to some definite course of action and acted upon proper medical advice. And I now, that we have finally gotten rid of this Mr. Bunbury, may I ask, Mr. Worthing, who is that young person whose hand my nephew Algernon is now holding in what seems to me a particularly unnecessary manner?
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I'm engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon. Mr. Worthing and I, Mr. Moncrief and I, are engaged to be married, Lady Bracknell. I do not know whether there is anything particularly exciting in the air of this particular part of Hertfordshire, but the number of engagements that go on seems to me to be considerably above the proper average that statistics have laid down for our guidance. I think some preliminary inquiry on my part would not be out of the question. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew at all connected with any large railway stations? I merely desire information. Until yesterday, I had no idea that there were any persons or families whose origin was autonomous.
Miss Cardew Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, SW, Gervase Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporran, Fifeshire, NB.
That's not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspires confidence, even in tradesmen. But what proof do I have of their authenticity?
I have carefully preserved the court guides of the period. They are open to your inspection, Lady Bracknell.
I've known strange errors in that publication.
Miss Cardew's family solicitors are Messrs. Markby, and Markby.
Markby. A firm of the very highest position in their profession. Indeed, I am told that one of Mr. Markby's is occasionally to be seen at dinner parties. So far, I am satisfied.
How extremely kind of you, Lady Bracknell. I have also in my possession, you will be pleased to hear, certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, whooping cough, registration, vaccination, the measles, both German and English variety.
Ah, a life crowded with incident. I see, though perhaps somewhat too exciting for a young girl. I'm not myself in favor of premature experiences. Gwendolyn, the time approaches for our departure. We have not a moment to lose. As a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, I had better ask if Miss Cardew has any little fortune.
Oh, about £130,000 in the funds. That is all. Good day, Lady Bracknell. So pleased to have seen you.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000. And in funds. Miss Cardew seems to me the most attractive young lady now that I look at her. Few girls of the present day have any really solid qualities, any of the qualities that last and improve with time. We live, I regret to say, in an age of surfaces. Stand up, dear. Pretty child, your dress is sadly simple, and your hair seems almost as nature might have left it. But we can soon alter all that. A marvelous French maid produces a really splendid look in a very brief space of time. I remember recommending one to a young lady Lansing, and after 3 months, her husband did not know her.
And after 6 months, nobody knew her.
Kindly turn around, sweet child. No, precisely is what I want. Yes, quite as I expected. There are distinct social possibilities in their profile. The 2 weak points of it in our age are its want of principle and its want of profile. The chin is a little higher, dear. Style largely depends on the way the chin is worn. They are worn very high at present. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
there are distinct possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the sweetest, dearest, prettiest girl in the whole world, and I don't care 2 tuppence about social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who get in do that. Dear child, of course you know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend upon. But I do not approve of mercenary marriages. When I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of any kind, but I never dreamed of letting that get in my way. Well, I suppose I must approve.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may also address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The marriage, I think, had better take place quite soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
To speak frankly, I'm not in favor of long engagements. They give people the opportunity of finding out each other's character before marriage, which I think is never advisable.
I beg your pardon for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but this engagement is quite out of the question. I am Miss Cardew's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of age. That consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is extremely, I must say ostentatiously, eligible young man. He has nothing, but looks everything. What more can one desire?
It pains me very much to have to speak frankly to you, Lady Bracknell, about your nephew, but the fact is that I do not approve at all of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew, Algernon. Impossible. He is an Oxonian.
I fear there can be no possible doubt about the matter. This afternoon, during my temporary absence in London on an important question of romance, he obtained admission to my house by means of the false pretense of being my brother. Under an assumed name, he drank, I've just been informed by my butler, an entire pint of my Pierre Jouet Route 89 wine that I was specifically reserving for myself. Continuing his disgraceful deception, he succeeded in the course of the afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward. And what makes his conduct all the more heartless is that he was well aware from the first that I have no brother, that I never had a brother, and that I don't intend to have a brother, not even of any kind. I distinctly told him so myself yesterday afternoon.
Mr. Worthy, after careful consideration, I have decided entirely to overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
That is very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. My own decision, however, is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
Cecily, sweet child, how old are you?
Well, I'm really only 18, but I always admit 20 at evening parties.
You're perfectly right in making some slight alteration. Indeed, no woman should ever be quite accurate about her age. It looks so calculating. 18, but admitting to 20 at dinner parties. Well, it will not be very long before you are of age and free from the restraints of tutelage. So I don't think your guardian's consent is, after all, a matter of any importance.
Pray excuse me, Lady Bracknell, for interrupting you again, but it is only fair to tell you that according to the terms of her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not come legally of age until she is 35.
That does not seem to me to be a great objection. 35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women of the very highest birth who of their own free choice remained 35 years. Lady Dalton is an instance in point. To my own knowledge, she has been 35 ever since she arrived at the age of 40. And that was many years ago now. I see no reason why our dear Cecily should not even be still more attractive at the age you mentioned than she is at present. There will be a large accumulation of property.
Algy, could you wait for me until I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I felt it instinctively. But I couldn't wait all that time. I hate waiting even 5 minutes for anybody. It always makes me rather cross. I am not punctual myself, I know. But I do like punctuality in others. And waiting, even to be ready, is quite out of the question.
Then what is to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Montgomery.
My dear Mr. Worthy, as Miss Cardew states positively, that she cannot wait until she is 35. A remark which I am bound to say seems to show a somewhat impatient nature. I would beg you to reconsider.
But, my dear Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your own hands. The moment you consent to my marriage with Gwendolyn, I will gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
You must be quite aware that what you propose is out of the question.
Then a passionate celibacy is all any of us can look forward to.
That is not the destiny I proposed for Gwendolyn. Algernon, of course, can choose for himself. Come, dear, we have already missed 5, if not 6 trains. To miss any more might expose us to comment on the platform.
Everything is quite ready for the christenings.
The christenings is not that somewhat premature.
Both of these gentlemen, Mr. Worthing and Mr. Moncrief, have expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
At their age, the idea is grotesquely religious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. I will not have such access. Lord Bracknell will be highly displeased if he learned that that was the way in which you spent your time and money.
Am I to understand then that there are to be no christenings at all this afternoon?
I don't think that, as things are now, it would be of much value to either of us, Dr. Chasuble.
I am grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. They savor of the heretical views of the Anabaptists, views that I have completely refuted in 4 of my unpublished sermons. However, as your present mood seems to be one peculiarly secular, I will return to the church at once. Indeed, I've just been informed by the pew opener that for the last hour and a half, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Miss Prism, did I hear you mention a Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I am on my way to join her.
Pray, allow me to detain you for a moment. This matter may prove to be one of vital importance to Lord Bracknell and myself. Is this Miss Prism a female of repellent aspect, remotely related to education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies and the very picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. May I ask, what
am a celibate, madam.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been for the last 3 years Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
In spite of what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She is nigh.
I'm fully expecting in the vestry, dear Canon. I've been waiting for your letter and how you got us.
Prism. Prism. Miss Prism. Look at me. Prism, where is that baby? 28 years ago. Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104, Upper Grosvenor Street, and traveled to a preambulator that contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. A few weeks later, though, via elaborate investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the preambulator was discovered at midnight, standing by itself in a remote corner of Bayswater. It contained the manuscript of a 3-novel of more than usually lengthy, revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not there. Miss Prism, where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I know it's shame that I do not know. I only wish I did. The plain facts of the case are these. In the manual of the baby mentioned, a death that's forever branded in my memory, compares usually to take the baby out of the formulator. I also removed some of the walls of the patient's handbag in regard to identification of any sort of work of fiction that I had written there my full arm with my eyes. In a moment of mental abstraction, which I can never forgive myself, I positively managed to open the fastened was the hand the baby in the handbag.
But where did you deposit the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Railing.
Miss Prism, this is a matter of no small importance to me. I insist on knowing where you deposited the handbag that contained that infant.
I left it in the boat room of one of the large railway stations in London.
Or what railway station?
Victoria, the Brighton line.
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolyn, wait here for me.
If you are not too long, I will wait here for you my entire life.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
I do not even suspect Dr. Choswell. I need hardly tell you that families of high position, strange things never are supposed to occur. They are hardly considered a thing.
Uncle Jackson,
Your guardian has a very emotional nature.
This noise is extremely unpleasant. It sounds as if he was having an argument. I dislike arguments. They are always vulgar and often convincing.
It has stopped now.
I wish you would write some blues.
This suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
Is this the handbag, Miss Prism? Examine it carefully. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
It seems to be mine. Yes, here's the injury received for the upsetting of Grass Street, anniversary of their happier days. Here's the stain on the lining caused by the explosion of Trumpy's beverage, an incident that occurred at Lincoln. And here on the lock are my initials. I forgot that in the stock that note I had it placed there. The bag is undoubtedly mine, and the lighted top, so unexpectedly searching, has been a great inconvenience being without it all these years.
Miss Prism, more is restored to you than your handbag. I was the baby you placed in it.
You,
Yes! Mother!
Mr. Rowling, I'm unmarried.
Unmarried. I do not deny that this is a serious blow. But after all, who has the right to cast a stone against one who has suffered? Cannot repentance wipe out an act of folly? Why should there be one law for men and another for women? Mother, I forgive you!
Mr. Worthing, there's some error. Lady Bracknell's supposed to be
Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive, but would you kindly inform me who I am?
I'm afraid that the news I have to give you will not altogether please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Miss Moncrief, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother? Then I have got a brother after all. I knew I had a brother. I always said I had a brother. Cecily, how could you have ever doubted that I had a brother? Dr. Chasuble, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother. Algy, you young scoundrel! You'll have to treat me with some more respect in the future. You've never behaved to me like a brother in all your life.
Well, not till today, old boy, I admit. Well, I did my best, however, though I was out of practice.
My own. What own are you? What is your Christian name now that you have become someone else?
Good heavens, I quite forgot that point. Your decision on the subject of my name is irrevocable, I suppose.
I never change, except in my affections.
What a noble nature you have, Gwendolyn.
Then the question had better be cleared up at once. Aunt Augusta, a moment. At the time when Miss Prism deposited me in the handbag, had I been christened?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, had been lavished on you by your fond and naughty parents.
Then I was christened. That is settled. Now, what name was I given? Let me know the worst.
Being the eldest son, you were naturally christened after your father.
Yes, but what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot at the present moment recall what the general's Christian name was, but I have no doubt he had one. He was eccentric, I admit, but only in later years, and that was the result of Indian climate and marriage, indigestion, and other things like that.
Algy, can't you recollect what our father's Christian name was?
My dear boy, we were never even on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
His name would appear in the army records of the period, I suppose, Aunt Augusta?
The general was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life. But I have no doubt his name would appear in any military directory.
The army lists of the last 40 years are here. These delightful records should have been my constant study. M. Generals. Malum. Moxtham. Magley. What ghastly names they have. Markby, Migsby, Mobbs. Moncrief. Lieutenant, 1840. Captain, Lieutenant Colonel. Colonel General, 1869. Christian name. Earnest John. I always told you my name was Earnest, didn't I, Gwendolyn? Well, it is Earnest after all. I mean, naturally, it is Earnest.
Yes, I remember now. The general's name was Ernest. Anyway, there's some reason for disliking the name.
Ernest. My own Ernest. I felt from the first that you could have no other name.
Gwendolyn, it is a terrible thing to find out suddenly that all my life I have been speaking nothing but the truth. Can you ever forgive me?
I can, for I feel that you are sure to change.
My own one.
Letitia!
Bertrand at last.
Cecily, at last.
Gwendolyn, at last.
My nephew, you seem to me to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I've now realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.